Welcome back. I hope you're doing amazing. I'm going to share how you can pipe your body butter step by step. If you're having trouble piping your body butter into your jars, I'm going to share my process for how I do this. I'm going to share what helps me, the tools, the equipment that I use, and my entire process for doing this. So let's go and get started. If this is your first time stopping by, my name is Esther. I make DIY hair and skincare videos on YouTube. I'm also a small business owner. I sell my handmade skincare products, soaps on my website online. And I also have my ebooks as well as formulating classes. I'll link everything I mentioned in the description box. So here is my disclaimer. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm just sharing how I do my body butter piping process. So I hope you find it helpful. If you have a better way of piping your body butter into your jars, definitely follow that method. But I'm just sharing how I do mine. So if you're going to start piping your body butter, you want to make sure that your texture is what it's supposed to be. So basically your texture check. The texture of your body butter, it should have soft peaks that can hold its shape. You want it to be smooth and you want it to be something that easily spreads. So that's just a guideline. So if you scoop your body butter and you hold it for a few seconds and it doesn't fall easily back down into the bowl, then you know that you have a good consistency. So this is an example of what I mean. You want a body butter that's easy to spread, that is not hard when you're scooping it out of your bowl, and you can see that it holds its shape. It's not falling back into the bowl. And I have piped much lighter body butter consistencies. When it's very thin or it's very loose in texture or consistency, when you pipe it into your jars, it's not going to hold the swirls. That's what I mean. So you want to find a fine balance in your body butter formula with the consistency. So you don't want something too hard or too soft, because then it's not going to hold the swirl when you pipe it. This is another example of another piping body butter consistency. And this is also another one. So this one is much looser, but the more your body butter sits, it is going to set up and also firm up. So don't get stuck on what the consistency should be. This is just a general guideline. Just keep in mind that if you have something that is slightly firm, it's going to hold the swirls better than something that's very light and thin in consistency. And here's just a general list of the tools and equipment I mostly use, and I'll be sure to link everything in the description box if you want to get these items. You don't have to get every single thing, but these are the items that I've found helpful when piping my body butter products. I use the 1M piping tip from Wilton. This is the only piping tip I currently use. There are so many different tips on the market, but this is what I use. And I used to use a plastic piping bag previously. I no longer use this to pipe my body butter, but they pretty much go hand in hand. You need a piping bag and you need a piping tip. You can also use a reusable piping bag. That is what I use all the time. It's very cost effective. There are different brands. I've used reusable piping bags from Wilton and also from Atiko. As I said before, I'll link everything in the description box. I used to use a piping bag stand previously, but I don't anymore, and I couldn't find mine. So I'll link this one as well. It's very helpful when you just start piping. It just makes the whole process a little bit easier. So I'll link this as well. When you first purchase your reusable piping bag, you're going to have to cut the tip. I've already cut mine, but you're going to have to cut the tip slightly so that way your piping tip can fit inside that hole. I hope it makes sense. And it usually comes with instructions. So once I've cut my piping bag, I'm going to insert the piping tip inside. You just want to push this all the way through. If you cut the hole, like if you make a big cut, your piping tip is going to fall out and that's not going to work. So you want to be careful. Just cut the piping bag, just a slight cut, so that way the piping tip can fit through that hole. If you, like I said, if you make it too big, your piping tip is going to fall out. So just cut it a little bit at a time until you find what works. So this is how I prep my reusable piping bag when I want to start piping my body butter. So I insert my 1M piping tip through the piping bag until it's pushed through that hole, and then I can prep the rest of my body butter to begin piping. Next are ties. These are optional. I used to use this when I first started piping. I don't use them anymore. I just used to use them to secure the top of the piping bag. So I found this very helpful, honestly, when I first started piping. It made the whole process easier because the bag was secure. But now, honestly, I don't use them, but I will link this as well. And if you plan on using a plastic piping bag, it's still the same process. You insert the piping tip. You want to push it all the way down. And what I do is I get a pair of scissors and I'm going to mark the bag, the bottom of the bag, where the tip is at the bottom, about a 1/4 inch away. You want to mark it with the scissors. This is going to be helpful when you're cutting the bag. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of marking it with the scissors. So I'm pushing the bag back. So the marking that I made with the scissors, I'm going to cut that. And that usually provides a good guideline for the piping tip. So that way it fits into the piping bag without falling through the hole. So I would say about a 1/4 inch is usually a helpful guideline if you're trying to mark your bag to determine how your piping tip should fit. I hope that makes sense, but that's how I do mine, or I used to do mine. And then I used to use a large cup and I would just fit the piping bag through, push it all the way down, and then I would just scoop my whipped body butter into the piping bag. You want to make sure that you have the body butter squeezed all the way down the bottom of the bag. So you're just going to push down the body butter until it gets to the towards the tip of the piping bag, and you're just going to push that in. And you don't want to start squeezing yet because it's going to come through the piping tip. So just twist the top of the bag to secure, and that's where the ties would come in helpful if you're using one. And there's really no perfect way to say you can pipe your body butter. It just comes with your hand or wrist control and how hard you squeeze the bag, or how firmly you squeeze the bag will determine the swirls. And honestly, it really comes with time. This was an earlier DIY that I did, so I really don't have a set way that I can say pipe your body butter. But once you squeeze the bag, you gently squeeze the bag at the top, and it's really just a hand wrist coordination, and you can practice. You want to be sure to tap your jar because this product has a lot of air introduced to it. You want to make sure that you tap the jars and then continue piping. If you plan on using the reusable piping bag, I recommend using the press and seal. It makes it a very clean and easier process. So you just want to pull out the amount of press and seal wrap that you need. It really depends on how big of a batch you're making or just how much you want to get started piping. So once you've pulled out your sheet, you just want to spread it out, and then you want to scoop your body butter onto the press and seal. It really just makes a clean process, especially if you're piping multiple body butter scents. So just spread it out all over the piping, the press and seal wrap. You don't want to overfill this. So once you have the body butter all over the wrap, you want to join the two sides together. So it has a sticky side. So once you press the two sides together, it should stick together. You want to do this, make sure it's firmly is it stuck together for and then you want to tie both ends and then just smooth out the body butter. I'm going to show you this again. So you want to press both ends of the press and seal. They're both sticky. So once you press it, just make sure you smooth out your body butter, and this is what it looks like. And then you're going to tie both ends of the press and seal. So you want to cut off one end of the press and seal, and you're going to follow the same process as before. You're going to place the press and seal bag inside the reusable piping bag, and you're going to just push down all the way towards the tip. You're just going to gently push down. You don't want to squeeze too much so the body butter doesn't come through the piping tip. And I'm just twisting the bag to secure it. If you want to use the ties that I mentioned, you would just tie the top, or you can just twist the bag to secure it. That's what I'm doing. Just twist the top of the bag to secure it. For my piping tip here, you want to avoid filling the bag to the top, because it's going to be extremely difficult to pipe your body butter properly into your jar. Trust me, I heard this tip and I still ignored it in the past. So this is what happens when you fill your piping bag all the way to the top. And this was a 24-inch piping bag, I believe. I was struggling. I could barely get the body butter through. So avoid this. I know it feels like you're saving time, you're trying to fill up the bag, but you are not going to save any time, and you end up with a mess. You can use whichever jars you prefer. There's glass, there's plastic, there's aluminum. Use whatever you have available. So I'm going to be using a glass jar in this example. So what I do is I just start at the center and I fill my jar all the way to the top. And then I'm going to tap just to make more space, more room in the jar, because this product has a lot of air that has been introduced. And then I'm going to continue piping, and I'm just going to do that. I usually tap a second time to make more room, and then I will just squeeze gently and create the swirl at the top. And it comes with practice. Same thing, I have another jar I'm filling. I just fill the jar all the way to the top. I'm not really particular. I just put as much body butter as I can, and then I tap to make room inside the jar. And then I'm just going to continue piping. It really is a hand wrist control thing, and it comes with time. So that's what I do. I just fill up the jar as much as I can, tap to make room, and then I'm just squeezing the bag. I think depending on how hard you squeeze, it will also determine the type of swirls you get. So like I said, it comes with time. I'm not really sure how to describe the piping process, but that's what I do. But you want to make sure you are tapping those jars to make room inside the body butter, so that way even if your body butter deflates, you've put as much body butter inside of the jars. Even if it deflates somewhat, the jars are at least almost full, or at least 70 to 80% full. This is what my body butter is looking like, and I have good body butter piping days and I have bad body butter piping days. There are some days that I just cannot get good swirls how I like them, so it's just a matter of practicing and just seeing what works best for you. But I try to make sure the jars are as full as possible, because body butter products, when they're exposed to heat, they will melt and they will deflate. So try your best to fill up your jars as much as you can. And then I just place my lids all over my jars. If your body butter is filled all the way to the top, when you place the lid, it is going to like mash up your body butter slightly. So it really depends on what you want. If you don't want the swirls to be disturbed, then you're not going to fill it up all the way to the very top. But if you sell body butter products and you want to provide the most product for your customers, then you want to fill it up as much as you can. So it's just a matter of preference, but just something to keep in mind. So you can avoid filling your jar to the top to prevent the lids from messing up your swirls. It is just a matter of preference. And here are some final tips. You want to practice good manufacturing practice, have a system in place for when you are making your products. Sanitize, disinfect work surfaces, tools, equipment, anything that you are working on and using. And some things I like to use to sanitize, disinfect, I have Steramine tablets, Lysol, Clorox wipes, spray, isopropyl rubbing alcohol. I like to use the 70% one. Everything will be linked in the description box. You want to make sure that you are storing your body butter away from direct sunlight and heat. They are prone to melting, so you do not want to expose it to heat. And then you want to make sure that your jars are properly cleaned, sanitized, disinfected, and you want to make sure that you are using airtight containers to help keep your finished product fresh. That will also help extend the shelf life. And that is pretty much my process for piping my body butter products. If you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about my process or any of the items or equipment tools that I mentioned, please let me know in the comments. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to buy any of my body butter products, I have my body butter products linked in my YouTube store, and my website is always linked in the description box. And I also have my super detailed body butter ebook. I will also link that in the description box. And I also have my other body butter videos that I've done. They're very, very detailed. I'll link those helpful videos as well. But I hope you found this helpful in your body butter making or piping process. Thank you so much for the support. Please don't forget to like this video, and if you've not yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.